This will be the final part of this lesson. This is chapter 2, section 1 on number lines and real numbers. Last time we counted to find the length of a segment, and I also kind of gave you a little glimpse as to a quicker way to do it. Instead of counting 15 little jumps, you could just subtract the coordinates. That's what this ruler postulate says. Remember, postulates are facts. The ruler postulate gives you facts about rulers. If you want to use a ruler, the thing that you're measuring has a numerical value for each of those points. If you want to find its length, all you're doing is subtracting those coordinates. Now you have to take the absolute value also, because if you subtract the other way, it's possible you could get a negative. For example, if you do -6 minus 8, that segment length is -14. Take the absolute value. Segment lengths are always positive. Okay, so take a second and write that. Lengths are always positive. So if you remember from last time, we did 8 minus -6, which we know is 14. That's the length of the segment. If you did it the other way, you get the -14, which makes no sense. You can't measure something and get a negative length. Lengths are always positive. Okay, so that's why the absolute value part is in this postulate 2-3. Let's try this ruler postulate. These are some examples from your study guide. Here's a number line. It's always good to know what you're counting by. You don't have colors on your study guide, but if you go from this maroon to this maroon, that's 1 unit. If you go from the maroon to the black, that's 1/2 a unit. So really what we're doing, our smallest unit of measure there is 1/2 of a unit. HI, I know that's what that looks like, but the way you read that is distance from point H to point I. How far is it from point H to point I? We're going from 4 to 7. If you count, you could count by halves because that's what the smaller unit of measure is. But if you count from 4 to 5, that's 1 move. 5 to 6 is 2. 6 to 7 is 3. That's the length of segment HI. Now, maybe you don't want to mess around with all the counting. What could you do with the 4 and the 7 to get the same answer of 3? You subtract. And you take the absolute value also, because obviously 4 minus 7 gives you a -3. You can't have a negative segment length. That's why it becomes positive. Let's try number 5. How long is segment AD? That's what this says. That's what this says. That's how it reads. You could count if you want. From -5 to -2, I think a lot of us know that's 7. You might struggle a little bit with the math. -9 is where A lives. -2 is where point D lives. Now you need to subtract those. And you might not be real sure what happens there if you're not up on your rules. -9 minus -2, that's how you read it. When you subtract a negative, it's like adding a positive. So -9 plus 2, that gives you -7, which we know has to be +7 when you take the absolute value. Okay, let's try one more. B to H. Maybe we'll just use the rule of postulate only for this one. We're going to subtract two numbers. What's the coordinate for point B? -6. Coordinate for point H is 4. -6 minus 4 equals -10. If you're not sure, type it in the calculator. But when you take the absolute value, you get +10. Now, maybe you do something goofy with your math in your head, or maybe you type it in your calculator wrong and you think the answer is 2, which is fairly common. From B to H, if you were counting, would it be 2 or would it be something bigger? So keep that in mind. That way you don't make some silly mistakes.